Good evening. I'm Dagan McDowell.
And I'm Charlie Hurt. Welcome to The Bottom Line.
Folks, it's almost 2025, and it could not come soon enough.
And what a year it's been. I can't say out loud the word I'd use to describe this year on TV, but I'm sure you can think it up. I'll offer just the PG version, holy moly.
Or holy shinola. Looking back, it almost seems unimaginable, but President Trump actually had competition, a large field of GOP opponents who were vying for the Republican nomination at the start of the year.
Since then, you saw the upheaval of colleges, university presidents, including Harvard's Claudine Gay, resigning, students taking over campuses, a cabinet secretary was impeached.
Trump was kept off the campaign trail, stuck in a Manhattan courtroom for weeks.
So we have another day of court in a freezing courthouse. It's very cold in there, on purpose, I believe. They don't seem to be able to get the temperature up. It shouldn't be that complicated, but we have a freezing courthouse, and that's fine. That's just fine.
Little did we know that just about 2 months after that, we'd see a presidential candidate, a sitting president, lose the election mid-debate.
With dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
And just when you thought this year is something else, 2024 found a way to become even more unreal. President Trump surviving the first of 2 assassination attempts on his life, dodging what would have been a fatal shot just by millimeters on live television.
It wasn't just his survival that stunned America. You also have to look at his response. He got up immediately and said, fight, 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 and appeared at the RNC just 2 days later.
Before Americans could fully process what had actually happened those days, a new Democrat nominee emerged. Kamala Harris, going from the least popular vice president. Is that right?
In the history of polling.
So, the least popular vice president in the history of polling to the Democrats' shining star overnight after Biden was forced out. Democrats really thought that they had found the key to stopping MAGA. There's just one thing they overlooked.
They weren't up against the Republican Party of yesteryear. Trump reshaped the party to include former Democrats, America's working class, and made inroads with minorities and the youth.
It was quite the buildup for a moment that I believe was the turning point in saving our nation. Trump's victory saved our republic. For more on that and all the moments that define this year, let's bring in the host of The Dana Show, Dana Lash, and host of Stacy on the Right on SiriusXM Patriot, Stacy Washington. Ladies, great to see you. Dana, for me, it was seeing President Trump in a McDonald's.
Yeah.
Serving French fries. It was seeing President Trump wearing a sanitation worker's vest, because to me, it was beyond energizing, because to Charlie, all of us, work is dignity, work is pride, work is self-worth. And President Trump doing that said, I value what you do to bring home money and support your family. And I just thought it spoke to the just hardship and hard work, that the hardship that people did not have to endure under Biden and Harris.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point, Dagan. And I completely agree with you. I think the debate where Joe Biden just fell all over the place, that's when the election was won. But what not only cemented the win of that election, but also expanded the tent, brought a little I don't know, fun to the whole campaign, was when he was at McDonald's. I mean, when he leaned out of the window, it was almost like a Norman Rockwell AI generated image. I mean, it was just wild. And he showed up in his suit. And I love that he wears his suit absolutely everywhere. And he would even put like a sanitation vest over his suit because that's who he is. He's suit wearing Donald Trump, and he doesn't put on airs or try to fake people out as to who his character is. That really resonated with people. I don't know if there's been anybody as good at retail politics than Trump, either Democrat or Republican, in the last, well, maybe since Reagan, or I think maybe Reagan and Trump, and I honestly don't know who else. Clinton was kind of good at it, but Trump, I think, really has everybody beat, and that's, you can do whatever you want and throw whatever you want at it. Being Democrats, it's impossible to beat something like that.
Yep. Yeah, and it's such a great point. And of course, it's also retail politics on steroids because you've got the internet, you've got TV, you've got all these mediums that Trump is so good at, who he's mastered. Stacey, it's kind of interesting to look back at the year. Trump actually beat two people for president this time. This is, of course, after he cleared the primary. But not only did he beat Joe Biden in the debate, he then turned around and had to beat the vice president in the election.
Yeah, he did. And I think, of course, Dana hits the key factor here is President Trump. It's the candidates. When they stood next to each other, when they went toe-to-toe in debates, when they were toe-to-toe on stages apart from each other, she made mistakes like calling out Christians and saying they were at the wrong rally. He welcomed people in. He expanded the tent. He expanded the GOP. His daughter-in-law expanded the RNC, actually turned him into a get out the vote organization for the first time since I've been watching what they do. And so there's a sense that they get things done. And that's supported by new polling that's out this week that shows that Americans actually thought that Democrats were putting forward an agenda on feelings and that the GOP under Trump was putting forward a can-do message that government could be better under him, and they chose that. But I think it was also the norms. It's not normal to teach children about sex, to let them read pornographic books in schools, to try to allow them to change their gender at an age where they can't even get their ears pierced without their parents' permission, to deny parents their rights, to take over education and turn it into something disgusting and nasty with no standards and no achievement. All of those things go against what Americans truly feel, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. And that's why the message won across so many different coalition groups that Democrats have always traditionally said, we can't win. So, I think Donald Trump was exciting, but then they tried to kill him. And then he became a true leader by stepping outside of himself and saying, fight, 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 and inspiring something within the American people that we haven't felt since Barack Obama told us we aren't exceptional. We are exceptional because we have a leader like him and we have a country like us who would elect him.
Amen to that. And Stacey touched on this, Dana, but there are some new laws coming into play as the 2025 starts. And one that's particularly odious and vile in California. This law, it starts January 1. It's known as the Safety Act of all things. It bans school districts from requiring that parents be notified if their child's gender identity changes. And the way that they have kind of tried to massage this is by referring to it, it's like if teachers and school officials refuse to forcibly out children, they are keeping parents in the dark by law in California.
I find it grotesque. I mean, of course, it's California where they're proposing this. I just think it's creepy and disturbing to try to get between a parent and their child, to tell children that it's okay to keep secrets from your parents. I mean, that's where stranger danger education comes from. And in California, they're trying to codify ignoring it. It's grotesque. It's abusive. It's preying on children. And honestly, I am incredibly suspicious of the motivations of anybody who pushes this stuff, because I don't know how you can say that it is healthy for a family, healthy for a child and the relationship with their parents, to encourage them to keep this and then keep the parents in the dark and not allow them to know what's going on with their children. Just because parents send their child to a school does not mean they are forfeiting parental authority or legal responsibility over that child. And it's not the place of the school to assume the role of the parent. California has it backwards, which is why they're like the last state in the nation that anybody wants to live in anymore. And they're not even including the nice weather.
Yeah, and they're fleeing. You know, Stacy, it's obvious that Democrat voters are starting to see through this, and that's what we saw in the election. But do you get a sense that the Democrat politicians are anywhere near realizing how caustic and how terrible some of these policies are in terms of trying to run elections?
Well, yes and no, Charlie, because on the yes side, look at all of their commentators, Van Jones and all the podcasts that they've been on, Chris Cillizza, they're all screaming for audits. They want to know where the money went, $2.5 billion, what happened, why was Oprah paid, why are billionaires being paid to endorse candidates? But then on the other hand, no, because the word on the street is they want to bring AOC up for their next presidential nominee. After Kamala, you'd think they'd learn that putting someone incompetent up does not win elections, but they're planning on putting the barista up next. So I think they really need to have a hard look at who they are. They're always talking about who we aren't. We are not those people. We don't do this. We don't do that. But who are you, Democrats? And what Americans do you represent? These are questions they need to really seriously consider.
And meanwhile, down in Florida, they're actually trying to protect children by banning social media for children under the age of 16, Dana.
Yeah, and I have to touch on something Stacy just said. Yes. I love that Democrats now want fiscal accountability. I could not LOL like in real life any harder than that. I mean, they actually want. If that's all you got to do to make them want to take responsibilities, have Kamala Harris spend $1 billion, then okay, let's go through it. But Dagan, to your point, to the question that you asked with regards to Florida, Florida's been really smart in listening to parents, because I've seen some kind of capital L libertarians say this is a free speech issue. You're talking about minor kids and a public, a public square, social media. And I think that there's a little bit of nuance that we can all acknowledge in that, because this is about parents taking control of what their kids consume. Parents can choose. They can decide if they want to go ahead and allow their kids after the age of 13, because I think that's the federal law, if they want to allow their kids to access social media. But it's going back and diverting to parental responsibility and legal authority, because if something happens to their child, parents can always be in some fashion, depending on what the situation is, liable. And parents want to protect their kids. They want to be involved in their kids' life, and this just further cements it. And it's just affirming what the parent already has the right to do. It's not creating additional government to go along with it, and that's the big difference.
Dana Lash, Stacy Washington, thank you both. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you both. Happy New Year to you.